Right, sport is up next.
Get loyalty that loves you back with MyCentra. Download the MyCentra app and get exclusive offers this week. Like Red Bull 4-can pack selected range €4 each. Selected Cadbury Timeout bars 5-pack $1.25 each. And selected West Coast coolers 750ml €5 each. Only with the MyCentra app. Centra. Live every day. Enjoy alcohol sensibly. DRS applies.
Galway Bay FM Sports News with the N17 Superstores, Milltown, Ballina and Tuam Road, Galway, where you're guaranteed amazing value and choice on appliances, TVs, sofas, furniture, bedding, mattresses and everything else to complete your home. See n17superstores.ie.
Starting with athletics and some sad news. The death has occurred of Irish Olympic runner Kieran O'Linnard at the age of 38. The Cork man passed away suddenly in Canada. His career included reaching the final of the 1500 metres at the 2011 World Championships, and he represented Ireland at the London Olympics the following year. Tonight in athletics, the Oslo Diamond League meeting will take centre stage, and plenty of Irish interest, with Mark English competing in the 800 metres, Andrew Coscoran in the Dream Mile and Orla Comerford in the Para 100 metres. In Gaelic Games last night in the Division 1 Hurling League Group 2, it finished Killadima Leitrim 128, Portumna 23 points. There's Division 1 action this evening as Capatagal play Clarenbridge at 7:30. And last night in Division 3, Ceylon beat Kiltormer 121 to 14 points. The draw for the Women's World Cup qualifiers will take place tomorrow week in Switzerland. Ireland will be in the hat, having lost out to France 1-0 last night in Grenoble. In motorsport, the first practice sessions and qualifying rounds for the 24-hour Le Mans take place today. There is Irish interest with Peter Dempsey and Charlie Eastwood competing. And we've horse racing in Limerick this evening, starting just before 4:45.
The weather with Kia Renmore. Order your 262 Kia by June 30th and get 0% finance, a €500 super value voucher and free home charger. Kia Renmore, Old Dublin Road, Galway.
Today will be a bright day with sunny spells and scattered showers. Shower will become more isolated through the afternoon. Cloud will thicken later this evening with highest temperatures of 13 to 15 degrees. And cloudy tonight with patches of light rain and drizzle at first. Rain will become more persistent overnight with lowest temperatures of 8 to 10 degrees.
The Job Spot on Galway Bay FM.
To advertise a job listing on Galway Bay FM, please contact reception on 091 770000 or email info@galwaybayfm.ie. Job Spot listings will be heard each day at 11:15 and 4:15. See all listings on galwaybayfm.ie. The Galway Bay FM Job Spot, building careers one step at a time.
If you need any phone numbers or email addresses, please call our reception on 091 770077. Search #Galway Jobs on social media or go to galwaybayfm.ie/jobspot.
You're listening to Galway Bay FM and this is Galway Talks with John Morley. We're doing financial advice now and we're joined by Dave McCarthy of McCarthy & Associates in Woodkey. Dave, good morning. Our first topic we're looking at today is a new customs levy on online purchases under €150 coming in from the 1st of July. What can you tell us about this?
Well, basically, if you are an avid online buyer, you'll be well aware of what I'm going to mention, but maybe for a lot of people who aren't and are occasional buyers, they won't know about this. So what's happening here is the EU bring in a customs charge for purchases under €150 that come in from outside the EU. The charge is going to be €3 per item. So, for example, if you order 3 or 4 items, say 3 items, it's not €3 for the 3 items, it's €9. This is going to be levied, as I said, on small ticket amounts below €150. There's already a customs charge for higher amounts. A couple of things people need to be aware of is that if the site you're buying off has an address within the EU, either a .ie, .eu or some other EU country, that's not what's important. What you need to establish if you want to avoid that charge and you want to buy within the EU, where is it being shipped from? So a lot of these things are coming from China, and that obviously is outside the EU. It could make, small ticket items quite expensive. And the last thing you need to be aware of is the seller might, if they're outside the EU, add on the charge, or they may not. And you might think, well, they haven't added in charge and I don't have a problem. Well, unfortunately, you might, because the courier arrives at the door or you get an email saying you have to pay the charge. So just be careful, be aware of where you're buying the item from and be aware that you will have this charge. And it's not per package, it's per item.
Okay. Now, in other news, Elon Musk's SpaceX is due for IPO this week and shareholders won't even have a vote on how the company is run in the future.
John, this is absolutely extraordinary. There hasn't been a public offering like this in history. So what's happening here is he needs more money for SpaceX, which gobbles up money at the rate it's expanding in its technology and all that stuff. It will value the company at just under $2 trillion. And he's only selling a small portion of the shares. My attitude was, I think he's very arrogant the way he's approaching this and the valuation. But I have to say I bite my tongue this morning because I read this morning that the offering has been oversubscribed at up to 4 times the shares that are on offer. So the public out there are gobbling up the opportunity to try and buy these shares. And another side to this is when you have shares in a company, you are a shareholder, as the name suggests. You have a say in running in the company through a vote at annual general meetings and important issues that are brought to shareholders. He set this up in such a way none of these shareholders in the type of shares that they're buying will have a vote. So he will completely control the narrative. He will totally dominate what happens with the company. And you're giving him all this money and you've no say in what happens. And if there's a problem and there's a vote, you will not be included. It's quite mind-boggling. I would honestly have to say, and only time will tell, I would say anybody thinking about this, it's so highly valued, I don't see there's an opportunity to make money if you're buying this down the road. If anything, you could lose money. So it's again, he's so arrogant, and it's a classic example of, I bend the knee, I give you these shares, but you're going to pay dearly for them.
Yeah, is there an element there that these shares, they all remain valuable while we are obsessed with going to the likes of Mars and further afield and doing space exploration? Should that appetite go as it did after the Apollo missions, where are you then?
Well, SpaceX, as you know, is also involved in putting up satellites and a lot of other things, right? It's also involved in developing new technology. And if that new technology starts to go pear-shaped, he's had rockets that have exploded on before launch. So it's based on hope. This valuation and buying these shares is based on the future and on the future of what he can deliver. It's very personal to him. So you could ask yourself another question. What happens if something happens to Mr. Musk? Well, I could tell you something. The value of any company he's involved in, including Tesla, and that will plummet because it's very much centered around him and his ability to deliver. But I will say one final thing on this. Elon Musk is the most incredible person for lining his own pockets. He gets enormous bonuses into the billions through shares in the companies that he has. So Elon Musk looks after Elon Musk.
Fair play to him. Another question. What investments should I pay capital gains tax on, and how does it work?
Well, first of all, capital gains tax is paid on the gain on any asset that you sell. So the asset could be property, it could be shares, it could be an investment that's classified for capital gains tax. And you need to know that there is an annual allowance of €1,270 per person, or €2,540 per married couple. You can earn that before you pay any tax, and the tax above that amount is 33%. So it depends on what type of asset you are that you sell, as I said, property, shares, whatever. And the other important thing to remember, and something that people don't think about maybe if they have a gain, is that you can offset past losses that you made on an asset. I'll give you a simple example. A lot of people lost a lot of money on bank shares, and they still are sitting on those losses, obviously. But they make a gain on something else. They sell another property, which is for investment, or maybe some shares or some investment that's classified for CGT. You can offset that loss, and that can be quite valuable if you have substantial losses.
Okay. Another topic. A survey shows only 20% show an interest in the new retail investment account.
Yeah, there's a couple of things since this came out, which is only a few days ago, that I want to mention. Simon Harris has passed a comment about the way this new savings account could be structured. Now, I have to predicate everything I'm saying. Nobody knows what this is going to be. He doesn't know. Nobody knows exactly what's going to be in this type of investment. This survey shows that only 20% are showing an interest. With all due respect to the people conducting the survey, it was a bit of a stupid question to ask. How can you know or express an opinion on something you don't know anything about. You don't know what it's going to be. So, like, I would say I would ignore that answer to that survey. It's irrelevant now. But I think what's important is that how is this developing? So going back to Simon Harris, he's now kind of saying the Swedish model isn't really something that they probably might look at, and they might look at something like the ISA in the UK, which actually is a very, very good scheme. But it's also limited in the sense that if you have large sums, it's limited to an annual allowance that you can put into it. But he also said something that made me worry about the fact that he really understands the people who are the people who have that 170 billion sitting on deposit out there and they're not using investments. Because he said investments are considered now for the wealthy. Now, I'm asking myself the question, what is your description of the wealthy? I'm in the industry, John. I'm in the industry for 30 years. And I know from the clients that I deal with, depending on what your description is wealthy is, they're ordinary individuals whose savings or came across money from one thing to another, right? So if he thinks that the perception now amongst people out there that investments are for the wealthy, they're not. And there are people listening to me this morning who do think that they're for the wealthy. And why do they think that? Because they don't seem to have access, or they feel they have access to the type of investments that are available. That is actually a key issue in launching any new savings account. And the last thing I'll say about any new savings account that he'll bring in, if he does not address a fundamental issue in the structure of it, which is basically Irish people are fundamentally averse to risk. But they will also take some risk once they understand what it is they're getting into. So if you want to get all that money to move into something else, you better understand and address this risk issue in whatever you design.
Is this drip feeding of information and kite flying, is it helpful between now and the budget?
It isn't. And he should, to be honest with you, he should keep his mouth shut, because like they're coming out with all these bits and pieces of things, and there's institutions out there, like I saw one of the banks released a statement saying they don't feel that this move from any deposits, that money that they have when this comes in towards something else will affect them, their bottom line. It's all speculation. And I think everybody needs to calm down. There's the less speculation that there is. There's commentary from financial journalists and all sorts of people. They don't know what they're talking about. It'll only be revealed in the budget.
Another topic, the 2-month opt-out window on auto-enrollment scheme for employees, starts on the 1st of July.
Yeah, there's nearly 800,000 employees were added to the auto-enrollment scheme when it started at the beginning of the year. There is an opt-out window from now, or from the 1st of July to the end of August. The opt-out window basically is you can decide to withdraw from the scheme and you will get a refund of your contributions. The contributions that have been made by the employer and by the government sit there indefinitely for you until whenever you touch them. But if you want this to withdraw from it and get the contributions back, you need to do it within this next 2 windows. Beyond that, you can always stop your contributions, you can always cease them, but they will sit there into the future for you. This is really, I suppose, key for anybody who feels that it's irrelevant for them or they don't want to be in it, but they want their money back. This is the time to do it between now and the end of August or from the 1st of July.
Would you advise against that or recommend doing it?
It's hard to say. Look, for a lot of people in the lower paid sectors, the contributions that are being made are very, very small. For some people, it might be more beneficial for them to look at a personal pension plan, but it depends on the individual circumstances. Don't get me wrong, the auto-enrollment scheme is better than nothing. It's finally that we have something, but I think it's not the right structure. But look, we're not going to go down there. It took them 20 years to devise this, and I'm not going to get into the debate in 5 seconds as to the rights and wrongs of it.
Another question, I've been offered a new investment related to a commercial property. I'm wondering, is this regulated by the central bank?
Okay, commercial property investments can be of a few different types. If it's through a life assurance fund, which a lot of the life companies operate, and it could be a property fund in Ireland, UK, Europe, wherever. All of those funds are fully regulated by the central bank, like anything else a life insurance company does. If you're being offered the investment and it's through maybe an investment company, and yes, there are the investment may be fully regulated, but sometimes they're not, and a lot of those are kind of nearly are considered unregulated investments. So make sure you just ask the question: is it regulated or not? And again, as I always say with unregulated investment, if it's not, beware.
Also, a new reporting to the central bank on the availability of ATMs has begun, but will it work, Dave?
I'm not going to go into this in the sense that you had a very good speaker on when this was announced, I think it was last week, the week before.
Seamus Boland, yeah.
Yeah, and I must say now, I have to say, compliment him. He addressed the whole issue extremely well. But I suppose what I'm just asking the question is, will it work? I suppose it'll only work if the reporting structure is acted upon by the central bank. Dare I say it, the central bank have a history of dragging their heels on a lot of issues, and sometimes have to be dragged kicking and screaming into dealing with things. And I won't go into too much detail. Tracker scandal is one, and there have been others. So I suppose that's what it's down to, is them taking action and how that action is actually put into reality. So that you do see, when you, a community or individuals are making complaints about an ATM, that you see that ATM on the ground. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, the banks are going to have a cost factor in this. So not alone in installing ATMs, but servicing them and that. So I know it's a legal requirement and there's legislation there, but let's hope that the central bank will act with teeth when it comes to addressing it.
We're also waiting a bit of the finer detail in terms of what the guidelines actually will be, Dave, so it's still a bit up in the air.
That's totally, look, I mean, I come back to what I said again about the central bank and addressing with issues. They're a very bureaucratic institution, and how is this going to work? It's a bit strange in the sense that I've never really seen any issue that the central bank have responsibility for where there is a direct, I suppose, a line, or they're encouraging a direct line with the general public to come back with, I suppose, their feelings or complaints about it. This is the first time I've ever seen it. So let's just see if it gets addressed in reality.
A comment in from a listener: I'm puzzled as to why stock markets have not tumbled considering the conflict in the Middle East.
And this is a very good, important, I suppose, an interesting comment. Some people think because of all the conflict that we've seen, that stock markets have kind of tanked and investments have all tanked. It's actually quite the opposite. The reason for this is that you always need to understand with the financial world where world events are concerned. The financial world will ration and look and rationalise what's happening. And they will see what's that impact going to be in the future, because stock markets are a prediction more of the future rather than the present. They react to current events, but then they're real interested in what's going to happen down the road. And so a lot of the companies that are worldwide are actually doing extremely well. Technology companies in the US, look, all across the world. And also they're taking the view, look, this oil crisis, they consider it temporary. At some stage this will get sorted, and that's the way they look at it. And like, come back and I use the example of COVID. When COVID hit, we all thought we're all going to die, right? Everybody's going to die, all this stuff. And then when it all calmed down, realised this is something that can be addressed and will be addressed in time, despite how long it went on. And that's what happened with the stock markets. They had the initial hit, and then they took this view longer term, and they moved on and actually started to perform very well after that.
Another topic: familiarise yourself with any benefit package you have with your employer, as they can be quite a valuable perk.
Yeah, if you're working for probably mainly a lot of these multinationals or a large employer, they generally have these benefits packages that they put in place for their employees, which can be extremely valuable and extremely attractive. And what am I talking about here? Obviously, a benefit package, the one most people think of is the pension scheme that they have. They could also provide you with a serious illness cover, income continuance if you're sick. Maybe they pay your medical insurance and death and service benefit, and there might be others. Sometimes people in employment don't familiarise themselves with exactly what these benefits are. And I heard of a case recently where somebody became ill, a longer term, didn't realise that there was actually an income continuance benefit in our feature in their benefits package that they could claim off. So all I'm saying is, if you're in employment where there is a benefits package, make sure you're completely aware what it is, because it really is, it could be very important to you.
Dave McCarthy and McCarthy Associates in Woodkey, thanks for joining us on Galway Talks this morning. I want to remind you that Margaret Connolly from Athenry is the latest Cash Splash winner and won €5,000 last Friday, which means we've given away €20,000 and now the cash